Over the last 18 months, I've gained and lost over 60 combined pounds, and here's what I've learned. The one unconditional truth is that you cannot spot reduce body fat. We lose weight holistically over the entire body. Generally speaking, women hold fat in their lower body and men hold fat around their midsection or abdominal area. These tend to be those stubborn areas that are also the first places we gain fat and unfortunately are the last places to actually lose it on the body. There are no special exercises or food items that are going to help target certain areas of fat. But what we can do is empower ourselves with knowledge so that we can take the first step towards losing it. Today, I'm going to cover what belly fat is, where it comes from, and then how do we lose it. Then at the end of the episode, I'm going to cover my step-by-step method that I use to lose belly fat. What is belly fat? There are different types of fat on the body, but the one that we most commonly think of is called subcutaneous, which resides just beneath the skin. This is the one that we can see most prominently throughout our body. This type of fat is created by two factors. One is lifestyle habits. These are the things that we can control, such as eating too much or not getting enough sleep, right? That's what I'm going to cover in today's episode. The second factor that contributes to fat gain is actually pre-existing health conditions. Things like insomnia, sleep apnea, hormonal imbalances are just a few things that can negatively impact your ability to successfully lose fat. I'm not a doctor, but if you've been applying the principles that I talk about in my videos and you're still not seeing success, I highly recommend you stop by your doctor to get some tests done just to make sure your hormone levels are within tolerance for your age and gender. Having said that, let's next talk about where does fat even come from. Fat is excess energy stored in the body that we don't use. This energy is also called calories, which is just a unit of measurement to quantify the amount of energy something holds. When you consume more calories on a daily basis than your body needs, it stores it as fat on the body. Therefore, if we regulate the amount of calories we consume on a daily basis, we can actually reduce those fat stores and actually start to lose weight. This brings me to my third point, which is how do we lose the fat? We lose fat by being in an energy or caloric deficit. Simply put, if you consume less calories than your body needs to maintain its weight, you will lose fat. Now, if you try to lose too much weight too quickly, you can put your health and body at extreme risk. Your body can enter a survival mode where it actually starts negatively affecting how it produces hormones throughout the body. Cortisol, for example, is a stress hormone that actually helps us regulate our blood pressure in our body, which is a good thing. But when we're in the survival mode, it alters the amount that's being produced, which can affect our appetite, our sleep schedule, and our ability to reduce the fat on our body. Additionally, if you're too much in a caloric deficit, you're going to put your body at a risk for losing muscle, which will affect your metabolism and your ability just to absorb nutrients throughout the body. This in turn will make it harder to lose that stubborn fat, which would negate, if not slow down the process of trying to lose fat in the first place. So I recommend not trying to lose more than 5% of your total body weight month to month to make sure you're within a healthy range and not in too much of a deficit to incur those aforementioned risks. This in turn begs the question, which is how do we calculate how fast we can lose the weight? Which brings me to my fourth point, which is my step-by-step method that I use to lose my belly fat. Hopefully you're finding some value in today's episode. Let me know in the comments below what questions you have regarding fat loss. Step 1. Understand our starting point. The first thing we need to do is determine what our total daily energy expenditure is, or TDEE for short, or what I like to call maintenance calories, which is the amount of calories that your body needs to maintain its current weight day to day. Therefore, to do so, we first need to do some math and find out what our basal metabolic rate is, or BMR for short, and then multiply that number by our activity level. Basal metabolic rate is just the amount of calories your body needs to consume just in a state of rest. So for example, if you woke up in bed, stayed there all day, didn't move an inch, and went back to sleep, that's what we're calculating, the energy required to sustain your weight on that given day. To calculate BMR, we'll use the Harris-Benedict equation, which you can find online, but I'll walk you through it for myself just to give you an example of what it looks like. There's two different versions of this formula, one for men and one for women, to take into account gender differences. So we're going to take a look at that with me as an example. For me, this is what it would look like. 66 plus, open parenthesis, 6.23 times weight in pounds. For me, that would be 207, close parenthesis, plus, open parenthesis, 12.7 times height in inches, which is 70 for me, close parenthesis, minus, open parenthesis, 6.8 times age in years, which is 28, close parenthesis, which comes to a total of 2,052.21 calories. Having found that number, we're going to take it and now multiply it by our activity level to find out our total daily energy expenditure. In my case, if we take a look at the activity level charts provided with the equation, you'll find minor activity at 1.55 as a multiplier, which is what I'm going to use in this case. This brings us to a new total of 3,176.93 calories. I recommend rounding down to the nearest 100th as a better starting point and an easier number to work with. So for me, that would look like 3,100 calories as my starting point for maintenance calories to sustain my current body weight, given that I maintain that activity level on a daily basis of 1.55 moderate activity. Having said all this, this gives you a rough starting point, so it's not going to be 100% accurate. So the next step, we're going to take that number and fine tune it to make it personal to us. Step 2, confirm our information. This step requires us to verify that aforementioned arithmetic to make sure it's actually reflective of us. For this next part, you're going to need 3 things. One is a scale, just to measure your overall weight day to day. 2 is a food scale, which is something just to verify serving sizes and quantities of food and beverages alike. And the third is a way to log and track this information on a daily basis in terms of what you're consuming. For example, I use MyFitnessPal, which is an app you can find in the store. And this is a free way to actually track your information and find things really quickly. What's going to happen is for the next week, I want you to eat exactly your maintenance calories as described in the previous step. And I want you to document daily not only your weigh-ins, but your total caloric intake on a day-to-day basis. I want you to always weigh yourself in the mornings. So this is how it should look. You wake up in the morning, you use the bathroom, and then you weigh yourself. Right? When you weigh yourself, make sure the scale's on a flat surface, not in between the cracks on some tiles or on the top of a rug or some carpet. And then document your daily weight every day in the morning. Then eat your maintenance calories as described in the previous step, and then go to sleep and repeat for 7 straight days. As far as what you need to eat or drink to hit your maintenance calories, it doesn't matter at all. So do whatever feels comfortable, whatever you enjoy eating or drinking. Just make sure you stop when you hit those maintenance calories, and then you repeat the next day, every single day, and then document your progress. To find the nutrient breakdown and actually calculate how much calories you're consuming per meal, look at the nutrition label. You'll see how many calories something has by serving. Then you multiply that total calorie number by the amount of servings you plan on consuming during that meal. You either jot that down manually on some piece of paper or however you plan on tracking your information, and then go on to the next item or drink you're consuming. Keep in mind that nutrition labels provide their information based on the raw or uncooked condition of that item. Meaning for a serving size of rice, when you look in the back of a nutrition label and it says whatever, like 50 grams for 1 cup of rice, that is for it before you add water and you actually cook the item. Meaning if you cook a bunch of rice and then you separate it by serving size in its cooked condition, it's now absorbed all this water, which will affect actually how you track your information in your log. I personally use MyFitnessPal to track my caloric intake on a daily basis. Now, it's really easy to use. It's essentially just this repository of all commonly held brand names and food items, as well as drinks of your choice, to actually look up things quicker, to find the serving sizes. All you do is just look up the nutrition label of the food item and then compare it to the MyFitnessPal, make sure they resonate, and then select that item and then just change the serving size as needed based on whatever you're consuming. To make this 7-day process even easier, I recommend eating the same meals day after day of your choice, so that way you don't have to keep looking up new values and new information and keep tracking new stuff. You can just keep using old values, but just make sure that the serving sizes are consistent day after day. The goal with this entire 7-day process is just to ensure that we're confirming and verifying the maintenance calories from before and if they're accurate or not. If after the 7-day process, there's not a significant gain of weight of over a half a pound from day 1 to day 7, then we've found that this number is relatively accurate for us and a good starting point for the next step. If we've actually gained more than a half pound from day 1 to 7, we're actually eating too many calories and we should probably drop that maintenance calories by 200 to 300. And the reverse is also true. If we lost over a half pound from day 1 to 7, we need to up our maintenance calories by 200 to 300. Finally, once you're back to that point where you're within a half pound from day 1 to 7, we've accomplished our goal of confirming and verifying our maintenance calories, and now we're ready for the next step. Step number 3 is implement the plan. This step takes the information provided in the previous 2 steps and applies it with the understanding of how many calories are in 1 pound of fat, so now we can control the rate of change over time. In 1958, Dr. Wisnowski found through his research that there are roughly 3,500 calories in 1 pound of fat. This information will help us determine our rate of desired change over time. This means, as a general rule of thumb, that if we maintain and sustain a 500 calorie caloric deficit over a 7-day period, that will equal 3,500 calories, thus losing 1 pound of fat. There are 2 ways to maintain that energy or caloric deficit. One is being just nutrition. 2 is being nutrition plus exercise. Meaning if my maintenance calories is set at 3,000, for example, and I want to sustain a 500 calorie caloric deficit, all I have to do is either eat just 2,500 calories, or I can add a little bit of exercise in to help offset so I can eat more and still lose the same weight. Meaning, let's say I eat 2,700 and I do 200 calories worth of exercise, therefore meeting my 500 calorie caloric deficit for the day and meeting my goal. Having said all this, I would be remiss not to mention the numerous outside factors that can also impact your fat loss, to include lack of sleep, not hitting your daily caloric intake or eating too much of it, right? Increased stress, pre-existing health conditions, to just name a few. All that being said, in a vacuum and from a conceptual standpoint, to lose fat, you need to be in an energy or caloric deficit, and you need to start by finding out how many maintenance calories you need to begin with, and then adjusting that number to either get your desired weight gain or weight loss that you want to find. Now, when it comes to the foods we eat to lose fat, it doesn't actually matter. You can lose fat eating donuts all day, eating cake, or eating chicken and rice, or whatever is healthy in your mind. Now, when it comes to feeling satiated or a health standpoint long term, now it definitely matters what you put in your body. Okay, keep in mind, your intestines don't have eyeballs. It can't differentiate if you're eating a donut or some chicken and rice. But what it can do is absorb the nutrients, and if it's nutrient dense, it's going to make you feel satiated, and it's probably more healthy in terms of food items. But items that are nutrient shallow, such as donuts or Doritos, are not going to make you feel good over time. They're not nutrient dense, meaning you're not going to feel satiated, as well as the impact of what you're eating, right? My recommendation is that you choose foods that you enjoy eating, okay? If you eat things that are quote unquote unhealthy in a relative balance in proportion to the other things you're eating, you can be just fine and live the way you want to live, but still lose the weight you want to lose or lose the fat that you desire. Now, the last thing I'm going to comment on losing body fat is that when you're in a sustained period of weight loss over time, you're putting a lot of stress on yourself, not just from a physical standpoint or a mental, but a hormonal level one as well. So to help reset that, as well as your metabolism, I recommend implementing some reverse dieting every 6 to 8 weeks to help offset the stress you've been putting on yourself. This will be better for you mentally, but also from a physical standpoint. I'll get more into reverse dieting in another episode because it's a whole different topic upon itself, but it's definitely something I would like to mention for you to look up on your own if you have some time, as it's a great way to help maintain that metabolism while you're on the path of losing weight. Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you stayed this far, I appreciate every single one of y'all. Hopefully you found some value in today's episode, and next week I can't wait to give you some more content that helps you in your journey.